sì o no?
Io sono innocente. Portella della Ginestra non so neppure dove si trova. Quello che ho detto ai carabinieri ho detto solo per paura che pigliassero all'ignati.
Giovano! Ci dica com'è andata, ci racconti bene i fatti. L'assassino lei l'ha visto in faccia, per forza, no?
No, troppo non so niente. Non mi posso dire niente. Non vedi niente. Sono entrato e sono svenuto.
Ma l'assassino potrà almeno descrivercelo.
Mi dispiace. Non mi posso aiutare. Non so niente.
What you had just seen from those two films is the concept of Omerta, also known as the Code of Omerta. Omerta derives from the southern part of Italy, and it is the idea that you must take a vow of silence, and whatever you hear or experience, which are often criminal activities, is to be kept in silence when confronted by authorities. Failing to do so is obviously punishable by death, and you are stripped away from liberty and any possible opportunities. It is common among the mafias, and sticking by Omerta is a strong way to show your loyalty to your organization.
One of the two greatest things in life.
What?
Look at me. Never rat on your friends, and always keep your mouth shut.
Contextualizing the films. To better understand Omerta, we must understand the scenes between the films. Both films are located in the heart of Sicily, which is southern Italy. Salvatore Giuliano is a 1962 political drama. The film revolves around the death of Giuliano and the Portella della Ginestra massacre, with Giuliano and his men being responsible for the massacre. In this trial setting, you see the young men who were told to plead by authorities but have stuck by their Omerta, which makes it harder to find the perpetrator of the massacre and death of Giuliano guilty. The Seduction of Mimi follows around the protagonist of Mimi, who is this adventurous working-class worker caught up in the middle of a mafia business. In this particular scene, Mimi luckily survives a shootout orchestrated by the mafia. Once he wakes up, he happens to see the perpetrators of the crime again, but in different costumes, and that's where he turns to the Code of Omerta. Comparing the films. The look. Both films perfectly showcases the actors that are looking back at their men. For instance, in Salvatore Giuliano, the young man constantly looks back at his men and forms an eye contact of loyalty, before yelling that he is innocent when in fact he is not. And similarly, in the Seduction of Mimi, Mimi immediately looks back at the mafia group and followers who were involved in the crime scene, and Mimi fears for his life when asked if he had seen anyone in the crime scene, and as a result, lies about the truth of the crime scene. The look enables us to see how the two characters interact non-verbally with their leaders and followers. For instance, forming that eye contact towards each other, signaling an agreement, which best showcases their omerta and loyalty being attested. In Salvatore Giuliano, what caught my attention is the framing of the characters and what purpose it has. For instance, the outlaws are contained within their perfect frame, observing the chaos among the people in the red, which is almost being out of frame. Even though the outlaws are imprisoned, they are able to control the narrative of the courtroom by withholding the truth of what happened at the massacre, almost like rigging an election. And the evidence of that control is shown among the interaction between the judge and the young men, which stands almost like a theatrical stage of the courtroom. Whereas in the Seduction of Mimi, there are multiple observations, one being the artificiality of the room, emphasizing that the scene that Mimi has caught up in is simply fabricated to have his omerta tested. 2. The costume of his boss had changed. The same boss who used to be his employer now stands a couple feet away as a commander with soldiers behind him, scaring Mimi. 3. When Mimi sits on his chair, he can assess himself perfectly, hence the perfect composition. However, that soon changes as the camera moves towards the left, and that perfect balance soon erupts, and it is evident that things are going to be ugly for Mimi. In Salvatore Giuliano, the close-up of the young man staring at the gang signifies eye contact, and a non-verbal communication that signals the honor of Omerta. In the seduction of Mimi, similarly, there's a close-up shot of Mimi lying, and it sends the message to the audience of how fearful Mimi is. Mimi attempts to communicate the lie in multiple ways, shaking his head, rolling his eyes, maintaining eye contact, trying not to break it from the officer. A successful Omerta indeed. The diegetic and exodiegetic sound is clear to distinguish in the two films. For example, in Salvatore Giuliano, almost all sound is diegetic, from the noises of the men in the court. The dialogue between the judge and the convicts are all sounds that are made to be aware by every character in the scene.
Sergente, Portella della Ginestra non so neppure dove si trova. Quello che ho detto ai carabinieri ho detto solo per paura che pigliassero all'ignata.
Chiedo si domandi all'imputato il trattamento subito prima dell'interrogatorio.
Silenzio.
While in the seduction of Mimi, the sounds are exodiegetic in two ways.
La la di la 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 di la.
Sopravvissuto!
One, the vocal singing of Fiorella, while Mimi slowly wakes up, and two, the music that is only heard by the audience when Mimi stares back at the mafia and during the process of the three mold and the crime scene flashbacks. A major theme of what takes part in Salvatore Giuliano and the seduction of Mimi is how Omerta plays a significant role in social class. The participants of Omerta are part of the working class, while the mafia and authorities are the opposite. The mafia and authorities play hand in hand in how the working class participants can be manipulated easily and inducing fear into their lives. The difference is how knowingly the mafia is aware of those behaviors and attempts to include them for further work, whereas authorities cannot afford to protect the participants like the mafia mob does. And since both of them perform their Omerta accordingly, their loyalty helps them to self-persevere and are given opportunities for more leadership, labor, and liberty, which then helps them escape the social class.